Maybe it is selfish, but I think for the longest time, women weren't allowed to be selfish.
Welcome to Season 2 of Self-Care-ish. It's selfish with care. I'm Megan, your host, and each week I spend about 20 minutes to an hour unpacking different ways to fill your cup after a divorce, or if you're on a dating or self-dating journey. Either way, enjoy and let's get into it. Every comment and every review on Apple or Spotify helps me keep Self-Care-ish going. Like this one on Apple Podcasts from Nikki, who wrote last week that she was going through a separation and the show was like, and I quote, a window into a new life she never thought was possible. And she found it when she needed it most. And it makes me want to cry. And I must be getting my period because this just made me so emotional, because that's why I do this show. It is for past Megan when she was first out of her marriage in her own apartment, wondering what to do next. So the fact that it's resonating with people in the same boat, that's it. That's the goal. I've peaked. I'm happy. I have achieved what I set out to do. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this episode. Let's get into it. We're millennials. We're going to hide if someone phones us before texting first. We're millennials. If we're picking up a friend at their house, we're going to text when we get there. We're millennials. We're millennials. We make six figures and still can't afford a home. We're millennials. Yep, that's what this episode's about. But it's also about more than that. Because I'm a millennial, and you're probably a millennial, and if I can do a deep dive into a social trend, I am going to. But first, we're going to backtrack. Backtrack to a few weeks ago when I was absentmindedly scrolling, as one is wont to do, and I came across a little video from a woman named Jenna Duddleston. Sorry, my washing machine is going off in the background. Please ignore. I didn't know Jenna, but the wisdom she imparted tied us together via an invisible string of sheer millennialness. An invisible piece of rustic twine, if you will, because she said something that made a vintage-looking incandescent light bulb go off in my head. And that was that millennials have only known change. I know every generation has, but millennials know it better than most because it's been built into our psyches. For instance, we don't keep our phones, we upgrade them. We don't just go to the movies, we upgrade to gold class. We don't own houses, we rent them and then upgrade when we earn more money. And then it hit me. And it also hit Jenna, but I actually didn't finish her video before I stitched it. It was so exciting for me. So that, I'm sorry, Jenna. The reason it feels like everyone is getting divorced now is because they are. And it's not because we're incapable of holding down a relationship, and it's not because we're incapable of falling in love. We've just been conditioned that if something isn't right, we upgrade to something better. Now, whether or not that is a good thing is a bit of a gray area. On one hand, a bad relationship that's hurting the people in it, and the kids especially, move on, absolutely. On the other, every relationship has a rough patch. Don't we have to learn to stick it out? I mean, my phone screen is cracked to shit, and I am still holding on to it for dear life. And I never want to be accused of encouraging people to just throw their relationships out. That is not the point of this pod. But I do want people to not feel bad if they have to. And I want them to move on well and to be okay afterwards and be okay with themselves and okay enough to be strong for their families. Those are the things that are important to me. And to help figure it out, I've brought Jenna Duddleston onto the show this week. She works in sports media. She runs a podcast called Bar Talk With Jenna because her family owns one of the oldest Irish pubs in Chicago. It's called Shinnick's, by the way, if you're wondering. And as an Australian, if I had to draw a Chicagoan, Jenna would be it. She just also has the best vibe and energy. So have a listen and you'll see what I mean. Jenna Duddleston. Hello. Firstly, I just want to say I did a deep dive on your content and I just love your Chicago energy. And I know I'm from Australia, but we've all grown up on this appetite of US media. So I just feel like you and your content just totally embody what I picture a girl from Chi-Town is like. Just confident, not afraid to share your opinion, funny takes on life. And the fact that you grew up with parents who owned a pub, I mean, this is TV perfection. But for the uninitiated who are listening, can you just describe what you do for the people?
Well, first off, Megan, I feel like the best way to describe me to people is my whole life I've been told that I am Fiona from Shameless. And I am convinced that if anyone watched Shameless in the US growing up, that whoever wrote Shameless followed me around for like a year and then created her based off of me because she did things and I'm like, what? And my siblings are like, oh, here we go. Fiona's yelling again, or there's Jenna yelling again. Like, don't get on her bad side. And I'm like, yeah, don't. It's very simple. But no, I love it. And I love being from Chicago. I'm a very stereotypical Chicagoan and I have no problem with that. But for those of you that don't know me, my name's Jenna Duddleston. I am a sports content creator. I have a podcast called Bar Talk with Jenna, and the bar talk stems from growing up in a pub. So my family owns one of the oldest Irish bars in the United States. It's been in there. It's been in my family name since 1938. I'm the fourth generation. So it's there. I have a lot of deep history, and growing up in a bar, you just assume. I assumed it was normal to grow up in a bar and to have those like very early on conversations with people. And then I realized it's not. This is not normal to go to a bar after school at the age of 8 years old. But I did learn about life in a very unique way. And then that kind of translated into being an athlete and then wanting to get into media and then specifically more so with sports media. And just like fully being myself and everything that I do has kind of been my biggest thing. Is so no matter where you find me, I can promise you that you're going to see who you see is like who you get. There's no filter. There's no bullshit. I have a giant sty in my eye right now. So like, this is what you get. And like sty and all today is kind of how it's going to be.
Sty and all. Perfect. Now, I guess anyone who follows along on my IG and TikTok will know that we connected because I stitched one of your videos, specifically the one where you outline all the reasons why millennials are so messed up. And you say it's because we, and to a larger extent, I think Gen Z coming through, are a generation that has only known upgrades. And I can go on, but I want to let you riff and sum up your take in your own words.
Yeah. So I stitched a viral video of Elijah. I'm going to butcher her name. I say it Schwarzinger. I know it's not right. But I think she's like an amazing comedian. I love her hot takes all the time. And about a week or so prior, I had said to my mom, I was like, Mom, I just feel like millennials don't get enough credit. And she kind of looked at me and I was like, Mom, I know this is going to sound like a lot and it's not a discredit to you and your generation, but like my generation only knows how to deal with change. Like we're just so used to it at this point that it's the only thing we're good at. And she kind of stopped and was like, she's like, I'm not disagreeing with you, Jen. And I was like, okay, so like we're on the same page. Love it. And my point that I was basically trying to make was because of the amount of change we've had in such a short period of time, like it's not to say that other generations haven't had change because they all have. And I've had every Gen Xer to every boomer come at me in the comments that I was not expecting. And I'm like, guys, pump the brakes. Like I see you, I get you. But the point I was trying to make is we just have it every like 2 months to 2 years. And I think there's that like, because we don't have anything truly consistent in our life, besides maybe your family or your friends, but because of all the other things around you that are constantly shuffling around, we don't know consistency. And then my like big, oh fuck moment at the end was, oh my God, and maybe that's why none of us can be in relationships. Like that was a genuine, honest to God, like light bulb moment that went off. And I just happened to have it being recorded. And I was like, and then I thought about that for like the next month. And I was like, this makes so much sense about so many parts for so many of us that aren't in relationships or don't know how to be in a relationship, or if you're like me, you're like, I don't know, like 3 months is good, right? Like, I don't really like you enough. Let's like move on to the next one because like this ain't going anywhere. But yeah, I think the point I was basically trying to make was that we're just really good with change and evolving because that's just the environment that we've grown up in. Like, and it can even get deeper, not only into technology, but from like being an American, the, having 9/11, we didn't have a war, and then we had a war, and then it was better, and then it wasn't, and then there was a recession, and then it was better, but it wasn't. Then the money went up and then it went down. And so we're just so used to things not going well that we only just know how to evolve with everything. And it's like almost being in that like fight or flight mode, I think sometimes.
Ugh, I felt that. And I remember when I watched your video, I was so excited by your take and I was like, this is amazing. This is the reason. And you put into words what I was marinating on about relationships. And I stitched you before I even saw your ending. And I was like, this is why we have the big divorce now. It was just incredibly poignant. And I do think this mentality has definitely seeped into our relationships and our marriages. And I guess something I struggle with and occasionally feel torn on is the sense that, are we okay with this? And what I mean is it okay that our traditions and structures are being dismantled and put together before our eyes? And in many ways, I am happy about it. But in some ways, I do feel sad about it. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I always like to use this saying of, when you're talking about a point or you're trying to get your message across, if you say like your first part and then you go, but everything you've said in the first part, like totally gets dismantled and no one hears it. So I think it's like, yes, and there's a lot of yes, ands with, I think, what's happening in our society right now. I think the dismantling of marriage, relationships, structures, status need to happen. And I still think that we need to take some of the fundamental foundation from it that was working. So it's trying to find that middle ground of what can we take from the old that worked, and then what can we take from the new that can also work. So I like to view it as, I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's exciting to be in this time because this has never happened. Like, we're living in a time where the way that our society is acting right now has never happened. Like, people aren't dating as much anymore. Why is that? There are so many podcasts that you can listen to, research, experts, studies that talk about this. And I think that, we can get into this, but like, I think part of it is just the more of this like feminine movement and like the women empowerment movement is women don't need men the way that we once needed men. Like, I think of, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My mom worked and then had babies and then stayed home because she needed someone to raise the babies. And I got to have the best stay-at-home mom ever. It was awesome. My mom's mom also stayed at home, but she ran a bar that was down the street from her home. And it worked at the time. She was like ahead of her time. But I look at the way that my mom and my grandmother did things and how, like, I don't even know. I'm like almost losing my train of thought right now, but there's just a lot that's changing, I think, more than anything. And I think it needs to change because it's not that we don't need men. We do. We love men. I think we love them and we hate them, just like men love us and hate us. It's just kind of the yin and yang of the opposite sex. But I think what's changing now is the bar is high. And it's because it's been on the fucking ground for too damn long. And so because it's been on the ground for too damn long, we have raised the bar. And yes, people are like, it's too high. It's like, no, motherfucker, this is the bare minimum. It is the fucking bare minimum. And if you cannot do the bare minimum, then I am good with myself. And I think that's the realization that a lot of young women are having right now is we're kind of in this like standoff of, this is what I want. We're doing the work on ourselves. Women tend to be more emotionally intelligent, can have more emotionally intelligent conversations with their friends because it's more socially accepted compared to men. And I think what I'm seeing now, at least in my group of friends, guys and girls, is I'm seeing more of the men in my life starting to do the work on themselves. And they're just doing it a little bit later than maybe some of the women. And that's fine because, again, if you look at research, men are just slower learners. That's okay. We love them for many reasons. This just happens to not be one of them. But I'm excited about this time and where it's going because there's so much unknown, I think, ahead into how dating and relationships are going to look. Because even for myself, like, I don't know what that looks like for me, but I know that it doesn't look like what my parents had. And that's not to say that what my parents had wasn't great. It was great. They've been together since they were 17 and 18. My dad's about to turn 61 this year. They still act like two horny fucking teenagers. God love them. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. But it's like I'm taking from them what I've liked, and then I'm also taking from other places that I need to make better for this life that I am in. So it's that like yes and, not that yes but, if that makes sense.
I've just made some notes while you've been speaking because so much gold. And you mentioned we're taking what worked and what didn't work in marriage. And just off the top of your head, what do you think has worked from traditional marriage? And we're talking hetero marriage here because I know that same-sex marriages often do look a lot more equalized. So not always, but I've had people tell me this.
I think something that I am starting to see now and really value and appreciate is the role that a man has in a household as being the provider, protector, leader in the household. Because when a man can truly be in his divine masculine, in a healed divine masculine, not a wounded divine masculine, and when a man can be in that energy, a woman can bring out all of those beautiful soft sides. And it's what makes women so fucking incredible. We are so beautiful when we can be soft and feminine and caring and nurturing. And we can only do that when a man makes a woman feel safe enough to do it. And so I think that there are that like kind of old, and again, like to some people, that's an old school mindset. But that mindset, I very much want to take forward into everything because, and I just wrote this like list of like things I want in a person. And one of them was like protector, where I feel safe enough where you can lead and I don't have to, because I lead in a lot of areas of life. Like women, we've had to learn how to lead just because of the environments that we've been put in. And I also think maybe it's from, it's like almost creating a bad habit. Like we've created a bad habit with men of like, we'll just do it. Like, you don't want to do it, I'll just do it. You don't want to do it, I'll just do it. So then in return, when we don't let them do it, we become more masculine and a man becomes more feminine. And to put that in layman's term, a man becomes a little bitch. And that's why we're labeled as bossy.
Let me just process that for a second. It's really true. And you know what? There is all this chatter around the divine masculine and divine feminine, but I think what you said about people is that they just want to feel safe. And, we want to take care of our men and we want the men to take care of us in return. And I think you're right. That's what it all boils down to. But you also touched on people being more single now. And there's this feeling of okayness around singledom these days. And I feel like I felt like that never existed when I was young. I don't think I felt this until the mid to late 2000s. Like, what shifted? Is it that we're just allowed to be selfish now, or is it about the removal of all social stigmas in general?
I don't honestly know, because I have been single for pretty much my whole life. I've had some, what I like to call, like, I can tell within like 3 months, like 5 max, if like this is going to be anything. And so I've had like musings is what I'll call them, but nothing's been like, this is my boyfriend, I'm his girlfriend. Let's go meet the family. I've never had that. Because I also just never felt like I was like, if you're not going to provide value, I don't want to waste my time. And I've learned and I'm going to move on. But the singleness, I on a very, very subconscious level when I was younger, always felt like something was wrong with me because I was single. And I remember being like, why is there something wrong with me? Why am I unable to date someone? And I don't like to point the finger back at people. I like to point the finger inward and doing some of the like inner work on myself. But I think that I didn't feel like it was okay to be single until I saw like Chelsea Handler just owning being single, truthfully. I think that there's something about her being very unapologetically herself, showing up as her fully, and realizing that, my life is good because I'm single. Like, yeah, if I find a guy and he needs to scratch an itch, sure, we can do that. I'm not looking for anything serious. But I think to me, I feel like the okayness around singleness is new. Like, I'd say, like, to me, I don't even feel like it was the early 2000s. I feel like it was in the last 5 years. Like, because I just remember being like, I like, what? Like, why are you single? And I'm like, I don't know, ask a guy. Like, I think I'm pretty fucking great, but like, I can't go approach someone because if I go approach someone, I'm instantly in my masculine, then he's in his feminine, and then he's being a little bitch, and then I'm being the boss, and then it's like all tied together, right? Like, it really is. But I think the singleness now, maybe it is selfish, but I think for the longest time, women weren't allowed to be selfish. So maybe this singleness era that we're in is women figuring out what they want for themselves and nurturing the relationship that they have within, because we're already caretakers. I think, just like biologically speaking, I think women just tend to be more on the caretaking side. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think it's beautiful that women take care of households, take care of men. And then what often happens with that is we get so depleted that by the time it's the end of the night, we don't have anything for ourselves. And then there's a lot of like anger and resentment around that because we're always worried and caring for other people when it's like, who's taking care of us? And I think, at least for me, I can say this, like, I'm the oldest, big family. I love taking care of my family. But for the longest time, I felt like I couldn't take care of me because I had to take care of others. And so in this single era of Jenna that we've been enjoying, I feel like I've been able to really nurture the relationship with me and take care of me and know me, because it's the longest relationship I'm ever going to be in my life is the one I have with myself. So if I don't know me and if I don't love me, how the fuck can I expect anyone else to?
You know what? I actually did a video recently about, like, there's this almost silent pressure on women to be silent. Like, I was interviewing Clementine Ford, who is this very famous Australian feminist, and she's amazing. And before we chatted, I said, look, I'm on the apps, but I feel like I have this pressure to really dumb myself down and not be so outspoken about my opinions in order for someone to find me attractive. Like, I don't get approached anymore. So when you say things like, I can't approach a guy because then I'm in my masculine and he's in his feminine, it's like this trade-off. Like, do I live happily as my authentic self, or do I silence myself in order for someone else to find me pretty and consider it attractive for men to approach me? And this is just what I struggle with internally sometimes, and I don't know if you've dealt with that.
I did. And to get a little deep, I for like 6 years of my life, I lied to me. I became a version of myself that I felt I had to be to make everyone else around me be okay. And when I finally woke up from this trance, and when I like turned my humanity switch back on, it was like a dark night of the soul. And I went in a lot of therapy, and I learned that I molded myself to make everyone else around me happy. And in return, I abandoned myself. And where I'm at now in my life is I found me. I love me. And that probably happened fully this year in a lot of weird string of events that happen, right? But I think with where I'm sitting at now, when you lose you and you finally get you back, like I'm never losing her again. Like I lost, like, not only did I lose like this version of Jenna, but I lost like younger version of Jenna. And I like abandoned like little kid Jenna and teenage Jenna. And that was like a hard realization to realize, because I'm like, fuck, like if I abandon them, like who, like no one's gonna find them. Like I have to find them. I have to take care of me. And so I think for me, the realization and the conclusion that I've come to is like, this is me, because I got me back and I'm never losing me again. I'm taking care of me. I'm loving me. I'm nurturing me. And if you don't like that, go find less. Because the reality is, when you're your big, bright, authentic self and people around you say shit, it's just like wounded people. It's wounded people with tiny dick energy, and they don't like themselves. And when you're big and you're bright, you shine a light on people who haven't worked on themselves. They just haven't. But when you are fully you and you just step into like, this is me, this is who I am, I fucking love me. At the end of the day, I do believe that someone is going to come forward because they're going to be so enamored by your like light and like who you are. But you can't find that counterpart if you're being a version of yourself to make everyone else feel comfortable.
That is so true. And I mean, it's a tale as old as time. Like, I feel like we do get caught in this trap. And, you made me want to cry. I think I'm getting my period.
Tears they cleanse the soul. They cleanse the soul. And sometimes a good cry is what you need. There's nothing wrong with it, man. I love to cry.
Do you?
It's like the greatest thing. Because I think for the longest time when we cried, women were like, oh, you're a bitch, you're being hysterical. And I'm like, but I want to fucking cry. So I'm just crying now, like at random things. Like, what was it, 2 days ago? So like one of my favorite Christmas movies, I have a few, but my favorite is It's a Wonderful Life. It's like greatest Christmas movie of all time.
I've actually never seen it. Sorry.
Megan, we need to watch it. Okay, it's on Amazon Prime. Without giving too much away. Okay, the ending scene. I'm just gonna say the ending scene makes me weep uncontrollably. Unfucking controllably I've seen it. I watch it every year. I watch it multiple times a year. And I cry every time. And it's just beautiful. And if you've seen It's a Wonderful Life, if you're hearing this, guys, you know the scene I'm talking about. And we've all cried watching it because it's beautiful. It's just the most, and it makes you realize you have a wonderful life. You need to watch it. At some point this holiday season, you need to watch It's a Wonderful Life.
I've written it down. I'm going to watch it. I mean, that's like the most millennial thing to say too, because we always say, yeah, I'll listen to it, I'll watch it. And we never do, but I promise I will. Anyway, I want to get back on track. Otherwise, I will just talk to you for hours. So we've established that there's this trend with millennials and we can't stay in relationships. But do you think this is extended to our friendships too? Because you touched on this a little bit in your episode, What Happens When You Outgrow People? And you said, people come into your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. Tell me about that.
Are we doing season, reason, and a lifetime more with like friends, you think?
Maybe, because we're millennials.
Maybe. I never, when I made it, I never looked at it that way. I had this, it's funny because the person that I heard that from was one of my friend's mom, one of my friend's aunts years ago. And she called me today, and we haven't talked in a while. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going on this podcast today. And I was talking about, the season, reason, or lifetime thing. And I was like, dude, I bring this up like once a week to people. And I don't know, with friendships are hard though, right? Because I think if you look at your life as a play, not everyone can be in the supporting cast. And I really do think that some people are just like for an act. Like my college friends, let's just say, right? Like I went to school in Minnesota for a year. And it's not to say that I'm not friends with them anymore, but the reality is like we don't live in the same state. We're older. Some of them are married and have kids. Some of them are doing other things. And life is just different. And that's okay because it's just how the journey was supposed to pan out. But I think in terms of friendships, I think it depends on you and like how you value your friendships and who are your people in your life. And I think I don't know I don't know how old you are. You don't have to say, but like I think as I've gotten older, I just know who my people are. And I'm like, these are my people. These are who I want to be with. And yeah, I enjoy the other people, but these people fill my cup up. So that's who I want to give back to the way that they give to me.
Well, I'm 38, but I do think that what you're saying is a lesson that people should learn as young as possible.
Friendships are hard though, man. Especially as you get older.
Definitely. And when you're single again after being in a relationship, it's weird. Like I've made friends, but some of them don't have kids, so they might not understand the juggle. It's a whole thing. Anyway, quick fire question. Are you optimistic for love and relationships? Like, because we hear a lot of chatter about people getting sick of the apps and returning to bars again to meet people. What do you think?
I hope they do. I mean, I'll tell you, we've had some beautiful love stories happen at Shinnick's Pub in Chicago, Illinois. Like, just the most beautiful love stories. And I love to hear them, you know, like I used to run the bar's social media account. And when I had the time, I used to do these stories where I'd interview the couples and I'd be like, so how did you meet? Tell me this, kind of like a Humans of New York. And the stories are, well, because one, alcohol's involved. So it's funnier. It's just funnier because the one guy was like, I mean, he was like, it was St. Patrick's Day and he was in a leprechaun outfit. And I was like, what? What do you mean you're in a leprechaun outfit? That makes no sense. And it's like, what? That was love at first sight. So I hope people come back to bars. I do. I think there's nothing better than that human connection. And it would be great. It would be great.
Oh, this is such a feel-good interview. I love it. And speaking of feeling good, closing out, I am doing this thing where I ask all my interviewees what their favorite self-care-ish thing to do is. So for instance, I am known to love canceling plans when I don't feel like it serves me to go out. So what's yours? What's your selfish self-care activity?
Oh, I forgot to say this. I am optimistic about love. I forgot to say that. I am. My favorite self-care, I love, this is going to sound weird, but like cleaning my house, lighting the candle, and just sitting on the couch and just like TV show, Netflix, TikTok, whatever it may be, and just enjoying the time with myself. I love that. But I also love I love taking myself out to like on dates. It's like one of my favorite things to do. There's this place in Chicago that I'm a big breakfast person, and it's called the Palace Grill. And it's like a super old school diner where you can like sit at the bar and they're cooking right in front of you. So my like favorite thing to do is to go there and get breakfast just like by myself and just smell and hear people around me and have my diner style breakfast. And that's like that's my favorite like self-care act, truly.
You know, you are the second person to say that. So I think there's something in going out by yourself and just really enjoying your food. Like, you've inspired me.
Do it. It's like go to the bar. Like the best, talk about like girl dinner is like going to a bar, having your favorite meal, nice glass of wine, and your favorite dessert at the end. It is like chef's kiss. It's the best thing ever. I did it a week ago.
Oh, I just love your energy. Can I bring you back on for like a part 2?
Yes, I would love that. I feel like I could talk to you like just keep going on, because these conversations I think are so important to have, and dating's hard. Like finding love is not easy. Being vulnerable is so challenging, and I think the more we can learn about ourselves, I think the better we can be.
I think that's a good line to end on. All right, I will release you. Thank you so much, Jenna, and I'm going to go watch It's a Wonderful Life and go have dinner by myself.
Thank you so much. And then let me know when this gets posted, and then I'll make sure I like share the shit out of it on my end too.
Okay, guys, what did you think? Did we love Jenna? Do we want her back? Because this is the last episode of season 2. I didn't want to make a big deal out of it up front because I didn't want you to think I'll be away long. I'm going to take a week and a half, 2 weeks off, but I am using that time to prep for season 3. I've also got my son full time for a little while, so he gets a look in as well. But I'm going to get some incredible interviews and plan for some much deeper topics I want to get into as well. So look forward to that. But if you want to riff with me, follow me on all the socials. All the links are in the show notes. And please subscribe to the Substack. I'll still be sharing there. And if you become a member on there, you and I, we can even do a one-on-one hangout if you need a friend to chat to. Or you can leave comments on the Substack and I will share them on the show. And again, please do review. And if you like what we're doing here, every review and, thumbs up helps keep it going. Many thanks, and I will see you very, very soon.